Well, friends, I welcome you all to this webinar. The problem of resources has been a major problem for those of us who deal with education in the country for the past several years. And we are not surprised by any deal that the government comes out with. We have now become quite used to it. But as a major non-governmental movement in the field of school education, it is our duty to point out what is going wrong and put every kind of pressure that we can to see that it is righted. And you have already heard Mr. Ambarish Rai about the signature campaign that he is organizing and the way we are trying to approach the government again to make changes in the budget. The problem of resources for implementing measures in the economic sector is a crucial problem. Actually, there's no point coming out with big projects and announcing major initiatives unless it is accompanied by the commitment of resources to implement it. This is a very plain common sense, if not economic logic, and it goes without saying. The Kothari Commission was one of the earliest body which had seen the logic of it and had recommended that 6% of GNP should be earmarked for education if education in India was going to be reformed and restructured in a fundamental manner, which was it was warranted by the situation of education prevailing in the country at that time, and that has prevailed since then. This was included in the National Education Policy of 68 and 86 as revised in 1992. Though no concrete measures were suggested as to how it could be achieved. What should be the time target for achieving it? How it can be done in a phased manner in that time target. Nothing of that sort was provided. And over a period of time, repeating 6% became a ritual. And it has remained a ritual since then. It figures in every important committee's recommendation. That provision of resources cannot be talked in the thin air. You just can't have a target which is either not comparable with what has happened with past or not related to the real requirement. And therefore, a lot of liberty has been taken so far as announcement regarding provisioning of resources are concerned. Promises are given which are never fulfilled. And I think it was the Devgowda government, and this historical review that I'm making, I think that Professor Govinda will bear me out, because he has also been a witness to the history unfolding in this area from inside as much as I have been from outside. When the United Front government was confronted with the question as to what they are going to do in the field of universalizing school education, even the Devgowda's government did not think it proper to commit the government to such an ambitious goal without knowing what was going to cost. And it is during his Prime Minister's period that the Tapas Majumdar Committee was set up, and with a specific mandate to make a calculation of the resources to be required for universalizing education or providing education, for certain age group over a certain period of time. And that was the first time when a thoroughgoing method was adopted in calculating the cost that is required to be incurred, so that the government can ascertain the political feasibility as to whether they can meet the cost or not and act accordingly. And this report has been very widely talked about. To sum up, I would only say that it laid down certain norms and standards, very few of them, very simple and very few, like a school teacher ratio and some very, very basic minimum infrastructure. It tried to put a price tag on it, and then it came out with its recommendation. And if my memory serves right, its recommendation was that in the best scenario, you need about 72,000 crores of additional resources to provide education as prescribed in the relevant amendment to the Constitution. And in the worst scenario, you need at least about 55,000 crores during a 10-year period. So if you divide by 10, then the per annum expenditure was not very high, was minimal. And that government realized that it was not possible to provide resources of that magnitude. And they, just sort of kept the issue under the carpet. They did not take any initiative in this direction. And then, by that time, NGOs had become very active, and they started putting pressure on the government as to why don't they act according to the Uni Christian judgment, and if they act according to that, then what is the amount of resources to be required? And so the RT Act was drafted at that stage. And Professor Govinda was very intimately involved with the process of that drafting. We had seen from outside a committee of the drafting committee subcommittee of the drafting committee, as you may call it, going into the question of total financial requirement. And they calculated the total financial requirement. And it was a part of the document that has been circulated along with the draft act. And I have a copy of that, in my file, personal file. And then when the act was actually submitted to the parliament, that memorandum was dropped. And only the act was there. So by way of resources, in the RT Act also we had no commitment so far as resources are concerned. And I'm aware of some of the internal discussion that took place between the Education Ministry on the one hand and the Prime Minister and some of his close colleagues, particularly Mr. Chidambaram and Montek Ahluwalia on the other, about what should be done about it. And then somehow they separated the 0 to say 3 to 6 education of 3 to 6 year children, and they confined it to the 8 to 8 years of elementary education. And an informal understanding was given to the Prime Minister's Secretariat by the Education Ministry that if it was done so, then they would have the resources normally allotted to them with little increase to be able to meet the financial cost. And that is how the act was moved in the parliament and passed. But there has been a lot of uncertainty about availability of even these resources, and a big tug of war between the Ministry of Human Resources on the one hand, the Planning Commission somewhere in between, and the Finance Ministry at the other extreme, about the doubts about even this amount of resources being made available. And therefore, question of resources remain an uncertainty. RT Forum has been organizing meetings, if not every year, then at least once in every 2 years or so, on the problem of resources, to keep it alive, to keep it in public attention. It has also been a major theme of our consultations with members of Parliament. We have issued also papers from time to time on this subject. And then we have the new education policy, and one a big drawback of that policy was that grand ideas, even grander projects with very high sounding abbreviations and even higher sounding Hindi versions of those abbreviations, as though that was the goal by itself. But no commitment of financial resources. And that made and any proposal that they made, either changing the 10 to 2 system into 5 plus 4 plus 4 plus 3, or establishing education complexes, or anything, in no chapter, no section, there was a calculation of the cost to be incurred for achieving that purpose. And in very few cases, time limit, and in no case the calculation of resources. At, in the earlier drafts, there were some suggestions about increase in the budget of the central government, but that was also dropped by the time the final draft came out. And so now, then we face the pandemic situation. The RTA Forum made presentation on how to deal with the pandemic situation and pointed out how much additional cost, that additional costs have to be incurred to deal with the consequences of the pandemic for education. At the time of the consultation on the budget, the RTA Forum presented a well-articulated document to the Ministry of Finance for that. And these were all ignored. And so now I will end in 2-3 minutes. I think at the same time last year, when the economy had slowed down, and when effort had been made during the previous year or so to impart momentum to the economy by the typical liberal measures and without having any effect. We were discussing in different forums about the lack of demand as a major factor for the slowing down of the economy. And being done by way of reviving growth through additional investment, mostly from private sector, like improving the ease of doing business, providing tax incentives to the richer section of the population, was not having any impact on the seriousness of the situation. And I had at that time presented a paper on the potentiality of major investment in the social sectors to create demand, and particularly in the education sector to create demand. And there was a consultation on that subject. And basically, the point that I had made in that paper, firstly, that the potentiality in the social sector was huge. And one simple calculation we had made, and that was if you universalize education at the elementary level, plus 3 to 6 level, and plus secondary level, then the additional number of teachers to be appointed, we had calculated post was 5.7 million teachers, and appointing 5 million teachers itself can have tremendous potentiality for creating demand. And that was only one fact responsible for universalizing school education. There was involved in other factors which we had not even taken into account. It was also argued that the mainstream economists, when they think of internal spending, apart from providing incentive for capital investment, their attention immediately turned in this budget also. as you have seen. And the additional investment in social sector is dismissed, among others, on the ground that that there is a long gestation period for expenditure sector and for being reflected in terms of enhanced GNP. And this has a fundamental argument. And one can well argue that the gestation period of major infrastructure project is longer than the gestation period of providing education. It can also be argued that the education does a lot more. It is really both the means and the end, which is not the case with infrastructure. The end part is not the case with infrastructure. Thirdly, that the base that it creates for sustainable growth is more solid and more lasting than in any other sector. But these arguments apart, even the short-term creation of demand is very much there. And even the mainstream economists do not agree with that. Some of the mainstream economists writing also give this false argument, and that includes respectable people, that it is the growth in income will enable more investment to take place in social sector, rather than social sector development contributing to growth. That aspect is not emphasized. So we are living in a very strange world, with distorted kind of laboring under distorted logic, distorted view of things, and postponing our major problems indefinitely. Just to conclude with one sentence, that when India became independent, the literacy rate in India higher than most East European countries, most countries of Northeast Asia and Asia, excluding perhaps Japan. And then you have seen that in spite of the fact that the rest of the economies have struggled with major political problems, many of them economic problems also, but they have forged ahead of us in education, almost all of them. And we have remained mired in the immediate post-Second World War situation or post-independence situation. And as things stand, it seems that we are destined to remain mired in that for decades to come. And this is a very, very poor reflection on the destiny and the future of the country. And I shall end with this. With this, these words, first speaker, I think we will have presentation of a general letter. We will finish. Then we will have a presentation, detailed presentation of the project, and then we'll have discussion during the time that we have. So then, could I request Professor Kenda to take the floor now?